Hey everybody, it's Missy with the Shimmerz Education team, and I have another layout for you today. I used a lot of Shimmerz sprays for this, and I'm going to try to recreate something that I just recently did in one of the Shimmerz Shorts videos, and that was using Shimmerz sprays on a piece of transparency paper, or transparency film, I guess you could say. And I want to do that again. I tried this, and if you saw that Shimmerz Shorts, then you saw how pretty it turned out. And so I want to do this again, and I'm going to make a layout with it. I pulled out a lot of different colors of sprays here. I've got Vibes and Snowy Man, but that's the blue that I put on there. The green is a Spritz 4-leaf clover. And I'm just spraying it right onto there. You can see it's obviously not going to soak in because it's transparency. And so the spray is going to pool up and it's going to start to run and the colors are going to start to blend. I also added colorings Heidi Ho Blue and colorings No Yoking. And I'm just going to take my heat gun for now and start to spread some of this color around. And I found that the integrity of the transparency does not get compromised, I guess you could say, if you don't hold the heat gun in one place for too long. It doesn't melt, it didn't bubble up, it didn't get too hot, it worked great. So I like to move the paper around and kind of tilt it a little bit. I've got just a sheet of white cardstock under it, and you can see how cool this is already looking. It makes these little rivers and areas with the paint because it just sort of leaks and runs all over the place, and then some of it just sort of spreads out and dries with the heat gun. And it does take a while, so I'm going to do a little bit of dabbing here with a napkin, but not too much because I don't want to lose a lot of that color. So I want to try to fill up this whole sheet. So I'm going to come in with some different colors. This is Jenny B Blue in Vibes. This is a colorings, and it's called Well Blue Me Down, and it's kind of a pretty teal color. And I'm going to come back in. I'm just going to add a little bit of color and then come back in with the heat gun. And, you know, you're going to get different shapes depending on where you hold your heat gun and how you tilt the paper. And you want some of it to spread, you want some of it to pool. And, you know, there's really no rules here. This is just how I wanted to do this. You could spray it and just let it dry as is. You don't have to use a heat gun. You could only use a few colors if you want. You have to be careful with certain colors though, because certain colors, when they blend together, they don't turn out very nice. Now this kind of gets tricky here. I come in with some pinks, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. Be careful of colors that mix together. I've got colorings in, I believe that's Pretty in pink, and then Vibes and Sunset Strip. I love pink and orange together, and I tried to spray it where there wasn't a lot of green, but it, you know, at some point it does blend a little bit with it, and so you have to just be a little bit careful. I did some more of the yellow, and I'm just doing the same thing over and over, drying it. And you know, if pink blends with green, it's going to be kind of muddy, so just be careful. As you can see here, a little bit of that's blending together, but it winds up looking really cool. And when the color dries, it's a lot lighter than it is when it's wet, and so it does look different once it's dry. I think this is looking really cool. I'm coming back in with the pink stilettos. This was really fun to do. I like to watch all of the liquid run and create all these different, it just looks like a map almost, with all these little rivers and valleys and mountains. Very cool. More pink. More yellow. And for this entire layout, this process probably took the longest, just because I wanted lots of rainbow type shades of color, and I wanted to have a lot of it on there. And so when it's dry and you see this up close, it almost looks like marbled rock or precious stones. I think that's how someone described it before. When you see it up close in small pieces, it looks really, really neat. So I tried this last time and it worked perfectly with this punch. And some of these punch nicely and some of them get stuck. And I think it's just using a punch with transparency is pretty tough because of the nature of the material. And someone suggested that I use cardstock on top and below the transparency when I punched it. And I do try that in a little bit, and it still did not work. I think it was just too thick. And my suggestion would be to use dies with this, or maybe run it through your Cameo, or just use your scissors and cut it. Because some of these, like I said, they punched perfectly, and some of them kind of got stuck, and I had to help them. And that's okay. I mean, it wasn't a big deal to me. I just wanted squares for this. And this is exactly what I did last time. As you can see there, I've got some squares punched, and I did wind up cutting some, so it all worked out. And I'm going to change my mind here with this photo, but that's the one I grabbed right away. And something about it, it's not the photo, I love the photo, but the black and white on top of all these colors, it just darkened the whole thing for me. So I do come back in a little bit and change the picture. But so now I've got a fresh, clean sheet of cardstock here, and I have not done anything to it as far as gesso or anything. And I want to create a grid with all of these beautiful squares. And some of these are from the ones that I created from the Shimmerz shorts, and then the rest of them are the ones that I just punched from the sheet I just made. And you know, when I want to make a grid, especially with these, I wanted them to be perfectly straight. And so I'm using my ruler to line them up. And I'm just using my tape gun here, and you cannot see the tape. I know someone asked me, how would you adhere those without it showing? And I just use a little bit of tape, and I think because there's so much color on there, you can't see the tape. And so I thought that was very nice, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to glue them down in case I wanted to move them. All right, so here's what I've got done. I love how this looks. It's so pretty. Oh my goodness. It's so awesome. And I stitched through it. I stitched white thread through each row, horizontally and vertically. So I changed my picture, as you can see there. I think this just totally lightens it up, and it just matches those pretty colors in the squares. A pool photo, surprise, surprise. And I pulled out the Simple Stories Sunshine and Happiness collection for embellishments, because I didn't want to go too crazy with the embellishments, and I definitely did not want to cover up those squares because they are so pretty. I just love all the pinks, the blues, the greens. You got some lights and some little bit of dark. It's just so pretty. So I don't want to get too much else going on, but I am going to use a couple of little scrap pieces of pattern paper to back my picture. And I audition a lot of different things here. I mainly wanted to get some layers behind my picture, some yellow, orange, and pink. And that frame that I'm using there as a layer is actually from an older Ellie's Studio collection. But it was the perfect pink, and so I'm going to use that. And I'm just going to go through my things here and see what works. Oh, and I also wanted to tell you guys, I don't know if you heard, but I was recently interviewed by Tracy Claiborne over at Live Inspired, and it went live on Friday, and I talk about all my scrapbooking, and I talk about Shimmerz, I talk about all my other different design teams, and how I came about doing these awesome techniques and everything. So if you haven't heard that and you would like to hear it, you can go to www.tracyclaiborne.com and you can hear that podcast. It was really fun to do. And I love talking about anything scrapbooking, so it was a good time. Now this is another technique that I did in the most recent Shimmerz shorts, and this is using Shimmerz paints to blend gelatos instead of just plain water. So I used a turquoise blue gelato there, and instead of using water to blend it, I used some Jenny B blue. I just sprayed it on the scrap paper and used it on a brush, and then used my finger to smudge the color. And so it just added a little bit more depth to the color instead of using just plain water. Just gives you another option to try. And I'm going to do the same thing with that yellow and the same thing with the pink. The yellow spray that I used was Glorious Day, and it's really pretty gold color. And then I'm using the Pretty in Pink here with this light pink gelato. And it was kind of harsh. The line was kind of harsh, so I just took a little bit of white gesso on my finger and smudged it out. I'm going to use that little sun right there in that open spot to the right of the picture, because I somehow always wind up using a sunshine on a pool layout. And I was struggling to come up with a title. Not really struggling, but I thought, where am I going to put it? I don't want to cover up those squares. And so I saw those Good Vibes stickers on the Simple Stories sheet, and I thought the pink matches, and I just think, you know, I'm going to use that as my title, and I can put it on top of the squares, and you can still see the color coming through. It's not necessarily covering it up, but you can read it. It doesn't just blend in, and it stands out a little bit. I'm going to do some splattering as well. And I've got Jenny B. Blue, the No Yoking, and I'm going to come in with a little bit of pink, which is a Vibes in Sweetheart. This is a little bit of washi tape from my stash, and it's just a pink and white stripe. And I'm going to add a little bit to the top here in just a second above the photo. I'm going to add some foam behind that sun. And some thread. You know I can't make a layout without some tangled thread somewhere. So I grabbed a couple different colors, and this is the light blue color. Gonna add some pink over to the left, just because it contrasts with that yellow. And then I'm going to add a little bit of this yellow underneath the title, just to give it a little pop there. I was really pleased with how awesome this transparency technique turned out. It was really fun. I think you could really make some really pretty colors, you know, blended colors using different ones, and it's just neat to watch it come together. Now this is from the Simple Stories 4x6 sticker sheets. These little summer sayings are so cute, and they fit perfectly in between the rows of my squares. So I thought, I'm going to use a bunch of different sayings, and it's just very subtle but very cute, adds a little bit of interest in between those squares without covering any of that up. And I love how that looks. So now I'm thinking, okay, I've got all this space over here on the left, and I don't want to, you know, make it super busy and take away from all those squares, but I do want to add a little something. So come in with this white Enjoy sticker, and I'm going to add a couple of the adhesive brads, and this is, I'm going to add a couple of those and a flare button, and that's all I'm going to do on top of the squares because I wanted that to show through. That's sort of the star of this layout, other than the picture, but those squares, oh my goodness, they turned out really pretty. That's a flare button up there at the top, and it says Great Day. Then I decided, what am I going to do over here on the left? It actually looks really pretty like that, but I needed to do some journaling, and so I thought, you know, I'll just kind of make my journaling kind of staggered. And so I filled up a lot of that space with my journaling, and I like how that looks. And then I thought, well, let me fill this little spot in. So I wound up doing a lot more than I anticipated, but these are the from the chipboard sticker sheet from Simple Stories, and the word summer just fit perfectly in that spot underneath the journaling. And so I added a little bit of thread, and I'm going to glue all those letters down, and I'm very pleased with how this turned out. I wound up really liking it. I love the colors. You know me, I love the bright colors. I love the summer vibes. Added another piece of washi tape, another brad, and some sunglasses down there at the bottom. But there's the final page. I love these colors. Oh my gosh, you have to try this. You have to try this transparency technique. It's so fun. So let me know if you have any questions about anything that I did or anything that I forgot to mention, any of the colors, anything about Shimmerz, anything at all. Just let me know. I really appreciate you guys watching and all of your awesome comments. I have such a fun time doing this. So please let me know what you think, and I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you have a great day. See you soon.